Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollock, Alison McConnell joins me and Hamilton boss Robert Watson is here as well. Let's have a look at the results from the weekend. It was Hibernian 0, Glasgow City 1, Partick Thistle 1, Rangers 3, Dundee United suffered a 5-1 defeat at the hands of Aberdeen, Hamilton 0, Spartans 3, Motherwell 2, Montrose 1 and Celtic 5, Hearts 0. Robert, first of all, the team kept it level until 50 minutes. Talk us through your game.
I think even to speak to the Spartans manager, speaking to Jack at full time, it really felt like a game who the teams were in the third game of the week, and it was also a bottom of the table. And I think both teams were quite aware of, they didn't want to come out too much and be defensively open. But from our point of view, it's a bit of we're a little bit, having watched it back this morning, a little bit unlucky with the own goal. Megan's just sort of gone for it and fell when it's ended up in the net, which can happen, but their second goal hits the bar and comes down, and from the footage we've got, it doesn't look like it's gone over the line. So obviously, we're, the next morning you feel a little bit aggrieved, but also we've got to recognise that after we lost the goal, we probably allowed Spartans a little bit too much momentum to then make another one or two chances. So that's something that we've got to do better from our point of view, looking forward to the next couple of games. Yeah,
because one goal, you're still very much in it. Two goals kills it a bit. From your angle, what could you see? Was it the players' reaction?
Immediately, from my angle at dugout, I couldn't really tell. The players were adamant it didn't go in. I asked the assistant on our side, who said who gave it, who said it was the other side assistant who gave it. And at full time they told me it was well in, but obviously having seen our footage this morning, well in I probably wouldn't agree with. It doesn't look like it's gone in, but we'll see from the BBC angle when we get it later on. But yeah, at the moment it looks like we've been maybe a little bit hard done by, and obviously that's a crucial goal. 2-0's pretty difficult to then come back from. 3
points still between yourselves and Dundee United. It's just about using that belief now that you can make that gap a little bit bigger.
Obviously we've got them this week, so the game on Wednesday obviously was a really crucial win. We played very, very well. I actually think across the 3 games this week we've played well in each of them. Now we head up to Dundee on this weekend, which is going to be a massive game for both teams. It's a must win for them. For us to go and win the game would put 6 points between us plus a goal difference, which is, it's going to be a lot going into the last kind of 4 games after that. So there's a lot riding on the game. It's certainly going to be a very exciting one, and for us, obviously, we hope we come back with the 3 points.
Absolutely, as you just said, there are 3 games this week. How tough has that been on the players?
It's difficult. It's difficult when you've got a smaller squad. We've had a couple of injuries, which unfortunately we won't see 2 or 3 players until next season. But that's the way it goes, and you're aware of that going into it, and it's about pulling together and using your squad best you can. We've been fortunate enough, we've got a couple of really talented youth players, a couple of 15-year-olds who have come in and really helped us out, a couple of players from our under-18s, and that's just where we are as a club. That's the opportunities we give. What we lose out in maybe a bit of experience we gain in being able to give these players opportunities, and we believe in them, and I think that's what the message has been to the players. We believe we can get out of this. We've shown enough over the last few games and at the start of the year that we can do it.
Well, let's just have a look at the league table then to see what's been going on up there. Robert's just said 3 points separating themselves and Dundee United at the bottom. And Ali, we've had a bit of a change at the top of the table. Celtic now 2 points ahead after Rangers slipped up against Hearts last midweek. Did you see that coming at all?
I have to say I didn't. I was really surprised when the scores came in on Wednesday night and Rangers had lost to Hearts. I didn't see it coming, especially because Rangers had been so comprehensive in their defeat of Glasgow City just on the Sunday afternoon. I do think the split is quite intense, and I think not just in terms of the fact that you have all the top teams and all the bottom teams playing against one another, but also the fact of how quickly games come and you have like a 3-game week at times. But I have to say, I hadn't seen it coming. I think it makes for a really intriguing finale now. We've got 5 games left to go. I thought Celtic yesterday handled the occasion perfectly. I think they'd gone into the game knowing that Rangers had gone back to the summit of the table with their win over Partick Thistle earlier in the day, in Glasgow City too, just snapping at their heels. They'd get a win over Hibs. But I thought Celtic were very composed, very assured, really dominant display against Hearts. Never in question, got an early goal after 3 minutes and it was never in question at all. And I think it sets up another kind of photo finish that we saw last season. Of course, Celtic would need the semi-final weekend this weekend, and then I think Celtic play Glasgow City straight after that, and then they play Rangers again, and you'll maybe have a better idea about how it's going to shape up then. But certainly they look as though they're the team with momentum at the minute.
Well, despite suffering that heavy defeat at the hands of Celtic, Hearts boss Eva Olid was very complimentary of her opponents at the weekend.
As I see football playing a possession game, and they play from years ago that the style of play, and they have technical players with a lot of quality, and years working together and with the same patterns, and you can see that they are so ready. I think that this year is Celtic year.
Do you agree, Robert? Is it Celtic's year? Can they snatch it this year?
I think there's still a couple of twists to come, to be honest. I think Celtic have definitely got momentum, which I would agree with. But I still think Rangers the squad that they've got is still too good just to say at the moment that it's just Celtic are just going to now run away with it. I think Alison's completely right. I think the semi-final between both of them maybe gives one more momentum over the other going into the rounds where they then all play each other again, and a couple of weeks we'll probably know a little bit better. But yeah, momentum's a huge thing in football, and I think if Celtic could, even though it's a cup game at the weekend, I think if Celtic could pick up a win there, I think momentum's very much in their favour, and just probably psychologically another win over Rangers to take them forward into Glasgow City, then Rangers immediately afterwards. Yeah,
well, as all good managers say, Ali, it's all eyes on us, and that's exactly what Elena Sadiku said after her win.
No, I don't care what the other teams are doing. The only focus is on us, and it's not going to change the pressure or anything. So the only thing that we need to focus on is, we've been performing well, and that's something that the girls are very confident about, and that's the only thing that we're going to focus on.
What's your opinion of her, Ali? Do you like her? Does she come across well?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's been clever. I think when she first came in, there was a change of shape, and Celtic looked very ill at ease with it. I think they looked all over the place, and a really inauspicious start. They lost to Rangers in the Cup, in the Sky Sports Cup. They lost to Glasgow City at Petershill. I think you could sense that there was a feeling of just shock in the aftermath of Fran Alonso going, and how quickly that had happened. But I think a consultation with senior players, a willingness to go back to the shape that they knew, to play to the strengths that were there. I think that's smart. I think rather than digging your heels in as a coach and saying, no, there's a new broom comes in and sweeps clean. I think she was clever to say, I'm going to take on board the way the players want to play, the way they're comfortable with. She reverted back to the old shape, and they've not really looked back since then. I think the first one actually came over Hamilton. I think it was a 2-0 win over.
We expected they lost the game against Rangers and then City, and we kind of expected the 4-2-3-1 shape that she changed to, and that was the game in the cup that they actually changed back to the kind of 3-5, their more familiar 3-5-2. And I think you're right. I think the manager's got from her point of view has realised, well, it hasn't really worked. You can dig your heels in and alienate yourself pretty quickly, or actually you can show a little bit of concession and work, the rest of the season, what the players know. Probably the question for Elena will be, what do we do in the summer? Do they change at that point to her preferred shape when she can get a few players of her own in? Or do they stay? But that'll be probably more an inkling of how she intends to take Celtic forward at that point.
But I think it was, I think she's a young manager, and I think she would be ageist with a lot of the players that are in there. She's only 30. There's not a great disparity in terms of players. So I thought it was smart to think, I'm not going to rock the boat too much. We go back to what everyone knows. And I think you have a spine in there, players like Kelly Clark, like Caitlin Hayes, who know how close they came last season, came within minutes of getting their hands on a First League title. So she has a core group of players there who have been over the course before, and I think it was wise what she chose to do. I think it will be interesting to see how that plays out this summer. But for now, I think they look like the form team in the country. They look as though they have the bit between their teeth. They have goals in them. They've scored more goals than any other team. They've got a better goal difference in 16 over Rangers. So if it gets very fraught in the closing games, they know that I think that's essentially almost worth an extra point. They've conceded 1 goal fewer than Rangers too. I think that's been notable. and it's really just about whether or not now they can go and see it through. I think the games against Glasgow City and Rangers are massive. I think obviously Cup weekend first, how that plays out, I think does give you an idea of what's going to happen, because whoever wins that one draws another huge amount of belief. I know it's a different competition, but I think whoever ends up on the losing side of that one, I think there is a danger it just upsets your momentum when it comes into the league.
We were always very adamant on this show, Alison, that Rangers were the team in front. They were going to win the league this year, perhaps even get the treble. Has your mind changed slightly now?
Yeah, I think it probably has. I still think Rangers have the best squad. I think they're the best resourced team in the league. I think they've got some fantastic players. They've got a real quality throughout the team, international players throughout the team. What I think you've seen from Celtic lately that you weren't seeing just in that January, February period is a team that now looks greater than the sum of their parts. And I think Natasha Flint has been huge for Celtic coming back at the end of the window. I think she gives them an entirely different dynamic up front. I think she gives them a whole different option. I think Amy Gallagher has had a fantastic season. I think Amy Gallagher is the best passer in the league. She can open up a defence, and I think with Natasha Flint coming in, it's given her an ability almost to play the 10 role. Like the onus isn't solely on her for goals. I think it's just given Celtic an entirely different option up front. And yesterday, Murphy Agnew scoring a hat-trick. She's not always been able to get into the starting lineup. I thought she was excellent yesterday. Lucy Ashford-Clifford coming back after serious injury too. I think they've really enhanced Celtic, and I think they've got options in a way that maybe they haven't had at points in this season because of injury.
I think that with Rangers losing Kirsty McLean for such a long period,
Yeah.
I think that's really hurt them in midfield. For me, she's the best midfielder in the league, in my opinion. She can drop off to get the ball, but she can also really affect the game in and around about the box. And I think it's obvious Rangers that have missed that, and it's Celtic have managed to recruit a player with Flint's quality to add to them. Rangers haven't had someone that's been able to come in because of the timing of Kirsty's injury, and just within the squad they just don't have. They've got good midfielders, but they don't have that little bit of extra that Kirsty seems to bring them, and I think they've really missed that, and they'll be hoping they can get better at quick. I'm kind of hearing through the grapevine it might still be a few weeks, so that would be the concern for them, is they might be without her until really the last one or two games, which hopefully for Rangers' point of view they'll still be in it, because she's such a big player for them.
Ultimately, I think there's really not much between Celtic and Rangers. I think Rangers are probably a marginally, if you look at it on paper, I think there's an argument to say Rangers have got the better quality. But I think both teams are very, very close. I think what you've seen this season is a gap open up between Celtic and Rangers and Glasgow City. Right. I think last season I felt as though all three were eachy peachy. I didn't think there was much between them at all. This season I think Celtic and Rangers have kicked on a bit. But so much of football, as you have seen time and time again, comes down to belief, momentum. You can't buy that. That comes from winning games, and right now you would have to say that Celtic are the form team in the country.
Has the pressure, Robert, of Rangers being in front for so long got to them, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say that. I think Joel has generally kept their feet on the ground. You know, I wouldn't say they've got a lot of experience in there. You know, even players like Tessa Medag and Nick Docherty, seen it done at international level, never mind club level. I think they've just. Every team will have a bit of a wobble. It doesn't matter how good you are. You will have a wobble at some point in the season. Now, whether you can still get your results when going through that wobble or not, I think that obviously Rangers losing through the week, probably no one would have saw it coming. But remember, Celtic had a wobble at Hearts around about Christmas time. They drew, I think, it was one each.
Just as all the rumours were really starting to circulate.
Celtic drew there. Rangers have now dropped points there. We watched the game before our game. We saw most of the Rangers game against Partick Thistle. They huffed and puffed a little bit, if I'm honest. They nearly threw it away. It was a bit of a goalkeeping error that led to Imogen Longcake getting the equaliser, but you've got to give them credit because they then dug in the last 20 minutes or so and made sure they didn't just narrowly win, they made sure and went and won 3-1 where it was comfortable for them. So they're just clearly working through a bit of difficulties at the moment for whatever reason that is, but obviously they've got a huge game on the horizon. You know, they might fancy being a little bit actually going in as a little bit of the underdog in terms of recent results. There's maybe a little bit less pressure on them now because Celtic everything, all the positives have been about them, and everyone's been talking about Rangers. Well, they're maybe not quite looking as infallible as they were, certainly in the first half of the season.
I do think psychology is huge. I think psychology in football, it's massive, and I think at one point Celtic looked as though they were in danger of being left adrift by City and Rangers at one point in the season.
I was at the game, the cup game, Elena's first game, and they were all over the place.
They were
all over the place, and that's where Elena deserves a bit of credit for actually circling the wagons a little bit and just getting everything back to an even keel, because
I would
at that
agree
point
with you.
I thought...
I mean, that game finished 3-2, but there was a huge difference. Like, in terms of quality, Rangers looked head and shoulders above Celtic. I actually think the turning point for her and for that team came at Ibrox, the game where they drew. They had a glorious chance. They really could have put the game to bed. It was 1-0. Natasha Flint had a chance. Just you'd have put your mortgage on her scoring. She hit it wide, maybe a mark of the fact that she hadn't been playing regularly at Liverpool before she had come back. But I think Celtic took so much from that game, because ahead of it, I think you fancied Rangers to go and comfortably take all 3 points, and I think at that stage it would have really kicked them on a bit. I don't think anyone saw Celtic taking anything from the game, and I think the prevailing feeling from it within the Celtic camp was that they ought to have taken 3 points, and for me, I think that was maybe just the injection of belief that they were back on the right track, that they were capable of going and competing, that they were at the same level as what they had been at, that there wasn't this huge chasm between the teams. Because I would agree with you, I think that first cup game, Celtic's shape was all over the place. They looked really vulnerable defensively. They looked disjointed in attack. I thought you feared the worst for them. I think after that game it really looked as though it could unravel. I think the fact that they pulled it back together again, it says a lot for her coaching, that she was willing to say, well, hang on a minute, I'm going to take a bit of feedback here from senior players, rather than just saying, I'm the coach and it's my way or the highway, you know.
Well, this weekend, let's turn our attention to it then, the Scottish Cup. How big is psychology in this game, Robert? Celtic take on Rangers at Hampden this Saturday.
Yeah, I think for both teams, we'll know obviously it's got no bearing on the league in terms of points and goals, etc. But just to beat your closest rival in the league and your closest rival historically at Hampden, with both sets of fans there, I think it'll be a cracking game. I think it's pretty unpredictable. I think the teams are, although Celtic have a bit of momentum, they're so evenly matched all over the pitch. There's such quality all over the pitch. I'll stick my neck out and say it'll be extra time, but there'll be a winner in extra time. It's not going to get as far as penalties.
And who will that winner be?
At the moment, I think I'm just going to go with Celtic. I just think they've got that wee bit of momentum and forwards are scoring goals.
Right. Ali?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't know if it'll go to extra time. I think Celtic will prevail. I agree. I think it's a hard one to call. I honestly don't think there's a huge amount between the two teams.
Is this the closest they both have been all season, do you think?
Yeah, for me, yes.
Yeah.
I think if you asked me this question tomorrow, I'd have gone and thought about it and thought, well, actually, maybe Rangers because of these reasons. I really think it's that close, and I think it can be not so much on the starters. I think it's when you look to the bench, who have they got available to come on and see the game out. I think that's going to be the big thing. To which team wins the game, who's going to be able to have that little bit of extra, just to a game changer to be able to bring on.
I think it'll be a fairly open game. It's a big pitch. It suits both of them.
Yeah.
Grass pitch and open pitch. I think both like to play a fairly attacking style. I think both will go for it. I think it'll be I think there'll be goals in it. I think Celtic might just come out on top of it.
Yeah, well, obviously the other semi-final is between Hearts and Spartans, which is probably the draw that both of them would have wanted for this stage of the competition. Hearts clear favourites in this one. Can Spartans have a go?
I think Hearts will be the favourites, just in terms of they keep the ball better. Even against Hibs last Friday, they were down to 10 men, but they were still by far and away the better team, even with 10 players. They were really, really good. I think from Spartans' point of view, obviously, you know, the game was close yesterday. I think they're probably looking at it as they'll probably need to sit in a little bit and they'll need to try and contain, and there will be a little bit more of a counter-attack game, I would expect. For them, I think it's whether Galbraith can score them a goal. I think Galbraith's a real threat. She can hold the ball up. It's whether they can get up close enough to her when she does hold the ball up to try and force something at the other side. But at the same time, Hearts have just been, you know, and didn't defend particularly well yesterday from what I've seen. So at the end of the day, it's a semi-final. You come up with a game plan and you know, Spartans are a big threat from set plays, and look out for them playing for those sorts of things because they've got quality delivery with someone like Elena Marshall.
It's a little bit just taking your chances, Ali, in semi-finals. You get one hit at this game, you might as well just...
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd expect Hearts to win it.
Yeah.
You would expect their quality to prevail, and they've got a full week. There's no midweek calendar this week. It's a full rested week for both teams, but I think I'd fancy Hearts.
Yeah, well, we'll be back next week with some more action to look forward to. Thanks to Alison, thanks to Robert for joining us. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.